Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. So today I'm going to quickly show like I don't even know if it's you could call it a feature video. I'm not going to really feature like their damage output. I guess I could compare them. But I've been asked a lot on YouTube lately, and actually sometimes even on stream. You know, what's your Cidd build? What's your Luna build? Just because they see the damage. Now I'm going to preface this by saying that my builds are not perfect. They work with how I want them to work. And so when if you are going to use my builds as a reference or a guide, you have to keep in mind like I use a certain amount of like heroes around these heroes to support them to make the whole team composition work. Otherwise stats are just stats, and you can be countered by if you're doing GVG or PvP. You can be countered by opposing teams quite easily if you don't know what you're doing in terms of team composition. I won't go into as far as team composition or in depth, but at least showing you guys my guild. Actually, I'm just gonna lock these since they are part of my Cidd here. So you can see the stats, of course, on the side. Main thing to focus on, I mentioned this in other videos, but I'll do it conclusively here. Before I used to run Cidd with a 2800 attack, but the critical hit damage was at 185%. Now just a quick briefing, if you are new and you really need to see like how much damage output potential you have on your hero, basically the most simplified like formula you would do would be like you attack total times the skill modification times critical hit damage. So you want to make sure you're doing it so like 2454. Let's say his S3 is at a 1.6 damage modification, and you want it to times it by a 2.43, and whatever sum you get is what you should be focusing on in terms of like, oh, is this build better than the other? So when I did the calculations before, at a 2800 attack and 185% critical hit damage, my numbers were just not adding up. So I was doing way too little damage for what I wanted him to be as, and so I had to compromise some stats. So a couple things I had to compromise. One was the speed. With the substats I had with my previous gear, I had about 175 speed. Now, if you do read some of his skills, it does say that damage dealt is proportional to caster's speed. If you read his damage mods, the speed scaling for his damage output is not that high. So I would say on Cidd, other than you want him to get his attack off first, because it's very crucial for him to go first, or one of the first damage dealers, you won't need too much speed other than getting him to go first. The speed scaling is not super high, and again, the speed scaling does come even after buffs. So if you buff him by like an outside speed buffer, or if you critical hit with your relentless strike here is S1, he'll get a speed buff already. So once he gets a speed buff, his speed is increased, so his damage for his S3 is already increased anyway. So a lot of you guys, if you were watching my videos like up to this point, you watch my PvP and GVG videos, I've been using Cidd like a ton. Actually, wait, these were locked. Why is it not a locked icon? Maybe I need to refresh it. There you go. Alright, there you go. Maybe you see me run him, and some people have been asking the builds, because I think it's because like my Cidd does pretty decent damage, and again, it's the critical hit damage is really helping. And Cidd, if you know like damage mods, like compared to other heroes, he has one of the highest damage modifications compared to every other hero, even 5-star ones. So that makes Cidd an incredible damage dealer. The other thing about his kit is that his passive, his S2, once you grant once he has increased speed, it becomes his relentless strike becomes enhanced, so it has additional damage to his S1, and also it has a chance to defense break, a 100% chance to break if you critical hit. Well, actually no, if you already have a speed buff, 100% chance to defense break. But keeping up his critical hit chance is really good for his entire kit, because you want his speed buff to continuously be off. As you can see, my Winds Resolve, the passive, I still have a 25% more damage. This is raw damage to my Relentless Strike. So you know, I don't know if I want to invest in him anymore, but in total, I think I have a total of 35% 35% more raw damage power that can be squeezed out of his Relentless Strike Enhanced. So he becomes a very crazy unit, but the only thing is Cidd has very low base attack, one of the lowest thieves, so it really makes up for like his OP damage mods. But you know, to each their own. If you want to invest in Cidd, the thing about him is that he requires a ton of investment. Like I said, you will be stretching yourself thin because his low base attack. You want to get his attack as high as you can, but at the same time balancing that with your critical hit damage, and of course the critical hit chance. You want to get a near 100%. I've had times where 96% screwed me over. I get a 4% chance of unlucky roll and actually don't crit, and that can make or break his whole entire flow. I do have Wind Rider on him. For PvP and GVG, I would recommend going with Wind Rider just because of his full kit. Basically, he has only a couple options: Wind Rider, Dust Devil, RNL. RNL, I would say no. The reason is because RNL, if you proc a second turn, he actually loses his speed debuff depending on what skill you use, because it counts as an extra turn, and his own self speed buff is a 2-turn speed buff. So it's not good if you proc an RNL, depending on what kind of skill you want to use, because you could end up not having a speed buff for 1 turn, which can really lower his damage. So Dust Devil is really good because he can also benefit from his own defense break. So if you proc a Dust Devil after his first attack and you got a defense break off, then his Dust Devil, the second hit, of course, you get that 70% defense break damage, which is incredible. I chose Wind Rider because you can see here, once you kill someone, you go into stealth, but then you also have increased attack. Now this is maxed to this point, but it's not maxed to plus 30. I think at plus 30 you can get a 60% attack increase, which is an incredible increase. This is why if you watch my GVG and PvP videos, my Cidd can one-shot like a ton of people, especially after his second turn. Again, he can benefit from this more than most other thieves, because once he gets the kill, he can benefit from his attack buff right away. So let's say like someone like Says, if he uses Wind Rider, he kills with his, let's say, S3 or even S1, it doesn't matter. If he used Wind Rider, you would have to wait for a second turn, but by the second turn he could be nuked by an AoE attack, and then he can die, and then you lose that attack buff anyway. Cidd has a benefit because if you use Wind Rider, if you kill someone off successfully with an S3 or even an S1, depending on how squishy they are, you'll be able to benefit from it right away. So it's really good to have. Anyways, I just never saw a reason to remove it from him, so it's been doing pretty well like that. As you can see, I went with the triple critical hit set. I've mentioned this in another video, but I'll mention it here as well. Do not be too caught up in your sets or completing your sets. What you want is your total stats and your substats. That's what you want to look for. And the reason why I kept with all critical hit set is because I needed to actually get his critical hit chance up. So in this rare occasion, I don't think breaking a set would be good for me. But let's say I could get 100% critical hit chance just from a substat from something else. But I had, let's say, an attack set helmet, let's say, and it had really good critical hit damage with attack. Then I would swap that in and totally just neglect the set. Of course, you don't need it at that point. So that's just a tip for newer players. If you're looking for, you know, like, oh, I have to complete the set, I have to complete the attack set. Not necessarily, especially if you're end game. This boot, I'm waiting one day to replace it. Hopefully, hunting Wyvern 11, I'll be able to get it. Hopefully, I can get a 4 more speed, so 40 speed total, but get similar stats. Ideally, he doesn't even need that much health. You can see I actually have a ton of health going on him in substats here. 15% there, 19% here. Was there some? No, that's pretty much it. But I think this one has some. Yeah, health 10%. But he's still very squishy. So ideally, you don't even really need to build him really strong in health. Don't get caught up in that. If you have a better replacement, like in my case, if I get more critical hit damage, more attack, I would totally swap that out, because his whole thing is striving on either stealthing from single target enemies, or just bursting down enemies as fast as possible. He's not supposed to survive, so it doesn't really matter. And the next one I wanted to show was the Luna. So I was asked about my Luna build. So Luna here, again, this is what my build is at. The critical hit chance is very low, and my Luna is notoriously known for not critting at crucial moments. Critical hit chance right now is at 47%. The reason why Luna can benefit from a low critical hit chance but then skyrocket attack and critical hit damage is because of her S2 passive. So if you read it, it has if your health is above 50%, it has a certain percent where it increases your attack and your critical hit chance. So at the moment, I'm at 27% critical hit chance. So that's a total of 70% critical hit chance. I mostly run her for my Wyvern runs. A lot of people, I think after watching my Sword of Azera feature video, were saying that, oh yeah, it's not even an artifact showcase, it's a Luna showcase. It's not exactly. I knew what kind of damage my Luna could do when I was running it, but I was basically hinging on that she has an elemental advantage with her S3 and of course her S1 on Wyvern. That would get her to about 95%, no, 85% critical hit chance. I also do run Hell Cutter. So Terror, one of my friends, when he saw my Luna, you know, tank in critical hit chance, he was saying that, well, why don't you use Hell Cutter? So Hell Cutter works, caster attack and critical hit chance stacks every time someone else goes, but it refreshes every time you go. So by the time, you know, let's say Wyvern attacks 3 times, or even in, let's say, PvP or GVG, by the time that you know, other heroes have gone, she would stack a 3.2% where I am currently in the artifact per turn. So that usually gets me to about 90%, which I'm comfortable in doing in getting a critical hit down. Otherwise, if you do run a Luna with like higher critical hit chance, and which actually arguably I would say try for at least a 60% critical hit chance, 60 to 70%. You would run maybe something else like Uberius' Tooth, Cidd's Scythe, depending on how you build them. I would say for bruiser builds, build with Cidd's Scythe, because you're expecting to get damaged, but you want your health back, siphoned back as an infinite loop. Uberius' Tooth is actually not here right now. I think it's on my Sirmia. But yeah, Uberius' Tooth, of course, it is pretty good if you have really high attack, because an additional, if you crit, it has a chance to proc an additional damage. So for me, Hell Cutter is the best one to go with, and because they're all warrior artifacts share the same base stats, so same health and same attack, depending on where you have enhanced them. At equivalent enhancements, they all share the same. So for me, Hell Cutter was the way to go for my build. My speed is at 136, and again, because how I run her in PvP and GVG, she's usually one of the last ones to go, so that other people actually get a turn before her, so she can start stacking the critical hit chance. And then that way I'll be able to output more damage, but also keep my critical hit chance low for a higher output in damage. With this build, I am able to nuke out pretty decent like tanks in the arena without a defense break, but of course with an attack buff. Like I said before on the Cidd, you don't need to really fuss about you know, keeping the sets. You can break the sets, but again, here I'm a hypocrite because I am completing my sets. The reason why I'm completing this set is because of my boot. It has a 30% critical hit damage, has really good stats all around for her, 60% attack boot, but for this one it has a 16% critical hit damage and a 6 speed. That's why I wanted to keep this. So it's kind of by luck I've got this set completed, the hit set completed, otherwise I wouldn't need it. Ideally, if I got a crit set with this similar stats, I would swap them totally, because you get an additional 12% critical hit chance, and that would pretty much complete me. This ring is probably her, I would say probably her weakest point. Ideally, if you could swap this for a 60% attack ring, so a level 85, she would get a ton more attack. 20% on her base attack is about 200, almost 300, and you want to get her attack as high as possible too, because of the passive, right? The passive, this percent here, it works on the total attack. So right here, I actually have a 27% attack increase from a 3,264 attack. The only reason why I have this ring on is because it gives the 14% critical hit chance. None of my other Abyss rings rolled high critical hit chance, otherwise I would have swapped them in a heartbeat. This one is pretty decent. 15% health is really good for her scaling. Her HP scaling is pretty high, flat, and has a 65%. And these ones rolled like really high attack. And of course, Abyss sets are really well known for speed and critical hit chance, just in general, and health. So for bruisers, they're actually really good. But she's not really built as a bruiser, really built more like a nuker. But anyways, that's all my thoughts. The lifesteal set, of course, completing it is beneficial too. I've run into places where, you know, because of her damage output is so high, being in GVG and PvP really helps her siphon back some HP. If I'm able to get a critical hit and, you know, either the S1 procs lucky or I get an S3, especially a soul burn, I can heal back as much as like 2,500 health, which is a significant amount, especially if you're trying to endure PvP or GVG. So there's some people chatting right now. I'm gonna catch up on the chat. I'm gonna run a quick demo while I'm hunting for blazing souls here. At least you guys can see the damage comparison. So I'm gonna keep both the Cidd and Luna in my teams, and you guys can see the damage difference. Cidd has a near wait, what am I doing? Go to world. Cidd has near damage mods as a Luna though, but with soul burn, comparable. But again, with Luna's passives, she obviously takes the cake. We'll go with Mega Man here. I don't think we'll need a support. I'll already build a team here just for this showcase. I'm gonna bring in Cidd just to keep up speed buffs. That's for Cidd's benefit, so she doesn't need to do it himself. And then I'm bringing Luna in the back here. So a lot of theory crafting. Now it's time for the showcase. Okay, so here we go. So in this rotation, no matter what, my Luna will always go last. So it's kind of good because I want her Hell Cutters to stack as well. So you guys see the potential of this build. Alright, so here we go.
I'll show you justice.
So I'm gonna buff with the speed for Cidd mainly.
I will guide you through the
and buff up the attack.
You pitiful being.
So generally in PvP and GVG, my Cidd will always be getting speed buff and attack buff right off the bat. So I'm gonna do that right now. Because the S3, once you have a speed buff, the S3 actually has elemental advantage, so it's actually really good for Cidd. So if you're considering to build Cidd, that's why I actually like using him, because it means on the first turn, if I can get the speed buff and the attack buff up, I can attack any target I want. So it really mixes and matches like any team composition if you can get those two buffs. The attack buff is obviously to ensure the kill, because PvP and GVG are pretty brutal sometimes. So we have 17,000 damage there. Now because I killed one, you can see Wind Rider is up. He's stealthed. If in GVG and PvP or even in PvE scenarios he gets knocked out of his stealth, he still keeps his attack buff. So his second hit here, even though that the damage mod is actually lower than the S3, it's gonna look like as good or even better than the S3. Okay, so for Luna here, I will use her S3 right here.
Burning hatred. A desire for revenge.
So it's a 19,000, but then with a defense break proc. Okay, I'll open that chest here. So I think if I remember correctly, that S3 on Cidd was 17,000.
Shall we begin?
Now another amazing thing about Cidd is obviously his with the speed buff, he gets many turns, and his S3 cooldown is very fast. So he gets, you can see that there's already in one turn, because if you can kill someone with the S3, it counts as 2 turns, and it's a 3-turn cooldown. So all I need to do is kill one more. So he has the Wind Rider buff up.
Give me strength.
And then the next turn he can already do his S3. And that's why like he's like, I kind of explain him as like a locomotive, like a train. Like once you get going, once his momentum gets going, there's really no stopping him unless you hit a brick wall. Alright? A brick wall meaning like someone he can't kill. So I'm gonna soul burn this one for the showcase. So he has Wind Rider, but no attack buff. Okay, Wind Rider's buff, no attack buff. Actually no, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it for when I can get an attack buff up, so you guys get a better damage comparison.
I'm on my way.
And because the speed buff is 2-turn, if you're doing PvE runs, if you kill on the last one, you get the speed buff. He keeps it for the next round, so keep that in mind. But if I finish off with the S3, I'll lose my speed buff on the next turn. So Cidd just takes some getting used to, but once you get used to it, well, I had to ruse it here anyways, it doesn't matter.
Shall I attack?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to actually make her summon her ads.
This is what the goddess wills.
Sometimes I could one-shot her if I could
Don't
defense
be
break
scared.
and soul burn the S3. I didn't crit here, so yeah, that's a
Shall we
problem.
begin?
Get back!
I will guide you through the light.
So I'm gonna keep my attack buff after the ads are summoned here.
Is it my turn? This is going to hurt.
Let's move quietly.
Help!
Don't worry.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't want Luna to kill her off too quick. Okay, we got an attack debuff here.
Do you believe in me?
Hopefully I miss. Yes, good. I want to keep them alive because I want to remove these buffs here. These
Show you
debuffs.
justice.
I'll attack this.
Come
Keep
here.
them alive. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
on my way.
Oh wow. When you don't want to double attack to proc, he procs. Okay, so let's get the
This is my chance.
Wind Rider buff up.
All right.
Okay, perfect.
I believe this is what the goddess wills. My goddess,
So attack buff is up.
grant me the power to extinguish the evil. I will guide you through the light.
Don't proc double attack. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Showcase failed. Showcase failed. I'll burn this one. They have a different defense. I wanted to show like both of them so I can soul burn both, and you guys can see the damage. But we can't really compare it now because
Spear of Laguna.
she'll die no matter what on the next turn. So I'll maybe as well show the soul burn there. 29,000 with the soul burn. It's a 2.2 times damage mod, which is exactly the same as Cidd's. Now Cidd has a attack debuff there, but I'm actually just gonna show it. So it's not a perfect showcase, but whatever. Some bad luck there. So 17,000. So I think it's roughly about 25,000 damage without the defense break. Oh, sorry, without the attack break there. But anyways, that's my Cidd and Luna. So yeah, my Cidd is arguably one of my most fierce damage dealers up to this point, until I can get Surmia built, and maybe Kairon is second, but my Kairon's not that great yet. Anyways, I'm gonna end that there. Hopefully that's been helpful and fun to watch. So if you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.